Welcome back to Taja's Garden. If you're new here, I'm Taja, the gardening realtor, and I love to share tips and tricks to help you grow a productive and beautiful garden. For my returning viewers, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. Today we're going to be covering 12 amazing plants that you could be starting in February if you haven't already started some of them in January. We're going to talk about the soil temperatures, the germination times, and a few tips to help you get the best results. Let's get started. If you are curious about the products that I use in my garden, you can check out the link to my Amazon storefront in the description below. And if you want to support the channel, please check out my Spreadshop link in the description also for some fun gardening merch. First up is eggplant. So I have actually never grown eggplant, but what I do know is that they are a warm season crop. Eggplants take 7 to 14 days to germinate, so February is the perfect time to start them. I'm going to be starting eggplant towards the tail end of February. I have actually never even tasted eggplant before in my life. However, I have heard a lot of good things about them, so I'm going to give them a try this year. Eggplants are also a nightshade crop, so you don't want to plant them near other nightshades like potatoes or tomatoes. Once they have 2 to 3 sets of true leaves, you can actually get ready to transplant them outside. However, you also want to make sure that the temperature outside is consistently above 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Plant number 2 is Bok Choy. Bok Choy is in the Cabbage Brassica family, so they are a fantastic plant to grow for cold seasons. The seeds can germinate in soil temperatures between 50 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. They germinate in 4 to 8 days. Number 3 is tomatoes. Now, last year I started growing tomatoes in January, at the end of January. I didn't have any issues with them. However, they grow pretty quickly. They grow quicker than peppers do. So in about a month, you will be wanting to up-pot them. In my case, I move them from the small seed cells to a solo cup. And from there, they grow pretty quickly. In about 2 or 3 more weeks, they're ready to go out in the garden. After I noticed how quickly they grow last year, I decided I would wait a little bit to start them this year. I'm going to be starting them in February. Tomato seeds take about 5 to 10 days to germinate, and they'll be ready to transplant outside once the nighttime temperatures are above 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Plant number 4 is going to be your romaine lettuce varieties. Now, romaine lettuce is different from leaf lettuces. In comparison, your leaf lettuces are going to be frost tolerant and heat sensitive, but your romaine lettuces are going to be warm season crops, which makes them frost sensitive and heat tolerant. The seeds are going to germinate in a soil temperature between 65 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, and they take about 7 to 12 days to germinate. After they germinate, they should be ready to harvest between 60 and 70 days. You don't want to transplant them outside until night temperatures are consistently above 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Plant number 5 is basil. I mentioned basil in my January video, which is linked in the description below if you have not seen it. I am going to be planting basil at the very end of January. However, if you do not want to start planting your basil at the end of January, you can also plant it in February. Basil pairs really good with tomatoes, so you can plant basil around your tomatoes to distract the tomato hornworms. Your basil is going to take a while to germinate, the same amount of time that tomatoes take to germinate, and it prefers warmer temperatures. So once you put your tomatoes out there, your basil can go out there as well. However, the only difference is your basil is actually going to grow at the rate of your peppers. So they're going to grow a little slower, but they are very cold sensitive. So you don't want to put them out there until the temperatures have warmed up at night, which is why I say you can put them out there once your tomatoes are ready to transplant out in the garden as well. Basil seeds germinate at its best rate when the soil temperatures are between 70 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and it takes 5 to 10 days for it to germinate. Plant number 6 are going to be your peppers, which is my favorite plant to grow actually. They are a warm season plant. They grow very, very slow. So if you are growing very hot varieties, you might want to start them in January. But if you start at the beginning of February, you should be fine. The seeds take 7 to 21 days to germinate, and they prefer the soil temperature to be between 70 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Like basil, peppers are very sensitive to cold temperatures, so you're going to want to wait until the temperatures at night are consistently above 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Otherwise, they will sit there and just not really grow. Plant number 7 are going to be your carrots. Carrots can be grown all year round, but they taste better when they're grown in cold temperatures because that cold weather actually creates more sugar in the plant, so it makes the carrots a little sweeter. The heat is going to make it taste a little bitter. Carrots are a root crop, just like beets and turnips. You do not want to transplant these. If you mess with the root itself while you are transplanting them, they will tend to just not grow very good. So you're going to want to direct sow these outside. And since the seeds are very tiny, you don't want to bury them too deep. These seeds can take between 6 and 21 days to germinate, depending on the outside temperatures. So you're going to want to make sure that you keep those seeds moist and enough to germinate. You can cover them with a piece of cardboard or something to hold that moisture in outside. And once they germinate, then you're free to water them. When growing carrots, you're going to want to make sure that you grow them in loose soil, because if they are growing around rocks or a lot of wood chips, roots of the carrots, which is the part that we eat, will not form like you want them. They'll move around and kind of maneuver through the soil, and that's how you get those funny looking carrots. Plant number 8 are going to be your snap peas. My children absolutely love growing snap peas. They're pretty fun to grow and they're not difficult at all. They thrive in the cold season. They are a cool season crop. So February is the perfect time to grow them. Once it gets hot, they won't grow as good. Peas do not do very good transplanting, so I suggest direct sowing them in your soil outside. They prefer soil temperatures between 40 and 75 degrees to germinate, and they germinate within 7 to 14 days. Once they get going, you're going to want to make sure that you have a trellis there because they are a climbing crop. You don't want them to be sprawled out on the ground because that's going to introduce disease to that plant and it could hinder your harvest, and they should be ready to harvest between 50 and 70 days. Plant number 9 is going to be arugula. Now, I've already planted arugula, which you can continue to plant. Arugula is one of those plants that you can succession sow, which means to plant every 2 weeks so that you have a continuous harvest all season long. Arugula is a cool season crop and they grow pretty quickly, so you should be able to harvest from it within 20 to 30 days. They prefer a soil temperature of 40 to 65 days and they normally germinate between 5 to 10 days. If it's warmer, they may germinate quicker. Mine germinated within 2 days. Plant number 10 are going to be your brassicas. I have already planted my brassicas. However, if you have not planted your brassicas, you're going to want to make sure that you hurry up because you are running out of time. Once the temperatures get over about 75 degrees Fahrenheit, that signals to the plant that their season is over with and they'll start to flower, get woody, and put all of their energy into making seeds. So if you haven't started them, it's a good time to start them in February. Plant number 11 is dill. Dill seeds prefer soil temperature between 60 and 70 degrees and they take 6 to 14 days to germinate. Dill is really great for cooking and it is good for attracting pollinators once they turn into flowers. So you're going to want to make sure that you start this indoors and transplant it outside once the temperatures get above 40 degrees consistently at nighttime. Plant number 12 are going to be your onions. If you watched the January video, I spoke a little bit on the onions and how to find out what kind of onions you need to grow based on your location. If you haven't started them, now is the time to go ahead and start them. Onions take about 5 months to actually be ready to harvest, and plus they really need a certain amount of daylight hours to form the bulb properly. So don't wait too long to start them. Thank you for watching this video, and if you have not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button, like and comment if you have any questions, and see you next time.